many congratulations. I watched a few episodes and I absolutely love them.
Oh,
Have you
thank you.
seen the conversations that it has evoked? Because there are theories and people are discussing what would happen and are eagerly awaiting the show. So, I mean, have you been through the Reddit comments and how people are discussing the show?
Yeah, I keep promising myself I'm going to stop reading the Reddit page because I think it has the potential to be a little bit creatively overwhelming. Honestly, because so many of the theories are so good and are so cool, and part of me wishes that I could make every version of this show because somebody will say something I'm like, well, that's not what we're going to do, but that's awesome. And and but at the end of the day, you have to you have to sort of stay true to what your version of it is. But it's hard to stop because it's just so fun. It's so fun to read the theories and see the fan art and just see people be excited about it. It's very humbling for me.
Absolutely. And if we come back after 3 years, there are several questions that are going to be answered, and there are new developments as well. What has that gap been like, and was it extremely challenging? Because the industry did go through its own churn in 2023. It was an extremely trying time for all of us.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's there's no doubt. I mean, the strike, of course, the strikes, because it was the writers and the actors. Uh, those were things that all of us felt were really important uh, uh, developments that needed to happen and reforms that needed to take place in the industry. Um, eh, but at the same time, it of course we had to stop, and it actually was different because in season one, we had the pandemic, but I could still write during that time, as opposed to during a strike, you really have to step away from it altogether. So there was the time that we were actually on strike, and then coming back, you have to sort of ramp back into things, both in your own head, sort of get creatively back into that space, and then also, of course, ramping back into production. So it was tough, but it also, to me, it felt like a gift because you always have to consider the landscape of the world that you're releasing the show into, and the fact that people are having these conversations about work and about how we should relate to our employers and how much of ourselves and our time we owe our employers and what they owe us back in return. These are questions that have been asked forever, but they were very much at the forefront during these labor disputes that were going on. So it just adds to the richness of the show. All of that, it sort of inevitably makes its way into the show one way or another.
Absolutely. And I also feel for creators, there is never an any or an outie in their life because art imitates life, life imitates art. So
Yeah.
where do you find your midway?
I mean, I will say this is the first job I've ever had where I don't find myself having the impulse to sever because I get to do my favorite thing. This is if I didn't have to worry about having a job, this is what I would do on my own just for fun.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the innie and outie are more similar than they probably would be if I had a different job.
Absolutely. And lastly, what is it like collaborating with Ben Stiller?
It's a dream come true. I mean, I had idolized Ben since I was a kid, and it's still sometimes surreal for me to remember that this guy that I work with, who's become a friend of mine, uh, uh, is also the same person who I thought so highly of when I was young. It's just surreal and it's strange, but he's an incredibly smart and thoughtful person, and I think that people probably think of him, that their first impulse might be that he's that he's more focused on the comedy side of it because that's often what he's known for. But from the very first meeting that we had, he was asking me these really deep world building lore questions about the show, and he was zeroing in on kind of the sad, empty human thing at the center of it, which is why would somebody choose to do this to themselves? And that question sort of became the North Star of the show. Like, why do we disassociate from certain parts of ourselves? And what about us has to be broken in order for us to choose to do that? And those really deep, sort of sensitive, emotionally intelligent questions. Ben is the one who more often than not is the one asking those.
Thank you so much. Lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
If you've liked this interview, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram.